I'd like to spend a little bit of time today talking about wisdom. And so I'm going to turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, and I'm going to read verses 13 to 23. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom, and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her is better than the gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honour. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. The Lord by wisdom founded the earth. By understanding he established the heavens. By his knowledge the deeps broke open, and the clouds dropped down the dew. My son, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and they will be life for your soul, and adornment for your neck. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. You're walking through a bazaar in the ancient Middle East. It's overflowing with bustle and bursting with colour. You hold in your possession a precious voucher that allows you to buy just one item from this vast market. Any one item out of all the wonderful things that you can see and smell in this exotic place. At first, the experience is a bit overwhelming, and it takes a while for your senses to adjust. There are so many spices and perfumes to smell, so many precious stones capturing your eye and holding it prisoner in their glistening beauty. So many traders urging and exhorting you not to ruin your life by walking past their stall. And the textures, so many textures that call your fingers to let go of your voucher and play on their surfaces. But this is a bazaar like no other. It sells all the things that other marketplaces sell, but it also offers you many things besides. One stall will give you fame. Another will give you success. Still another will furnish you with all the wealth you could ever wish for. There's even a stall that promises to give you popularity. And finally, there's one stall, a modest affair compared to all the others, with a trader who makes little noise. She sits quietly, knowing that those who want what she offers will seek her out no matter what. And this stall trades in wisdom. So what do you choose to spend your voucher on? This is the kind of picture that Proverbs paints. As a book, I guess it's very much like one of those brochures you can pick up at a car dealer's. Just as that brochure tells you all that you need to know about the car and tells you why you really need to buy it, so Proverbs tells you as much as it is able to about wisdom and urges you in no uncertain terms to do what you can to get hold of wisdom and not to stop until you have it. But wisdom, well, it seems to have fallen out of fashion a bit. We value education and intelligence in our society, but you don't hear a great deal of talk about wisdom. It wasn't always like this. The ancient Greeks valued wisdom highly. They saw it as being absolutely necessary in order to live a good life. But even before the Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle picked wisdom up to study its mysteries, the writers of the Old Testament were already exploring what it meant to be wise. So how did they understand it? Well, first and foremost, wisdom, they understood, is a quality that belongs to God. It's one of God's attributes, the qualities that actually make him God. The wisdom of God is seen especially in creation, and we read that earlier in verses 19 and 20 of our reading. But wisdom is not seen in creation merely because creation was a really complex thing to pull off. The wisdom of God shines through the goodness of what he created. God's act of creating the universe displays his wisdom because he created something that's good, life, and the ecosystems that sustain life. But what wisdom also brings to creation is a plan. God created a world with a purpose, a future that climaxes in holiness. And this is key to how the Old Testament understands wisdom. It is that quality that is able to plan for a good outcome and that is able to implement that plan. Wisdom, then, is a moral quality. It's not like intelligence, which is morally neutral in that it can be used for good and evil. As far as the Old Testament writers are concerned, if we want to be moral people, if we want to be good people, then we need to become wise people. And a wise person lives in a way that resonates with God's purposes for creation. To be wise, we need to share in God's vision for the world, to align ourselves with God's plan and work towards its fulfillment in our lives, but also in our relationships, in our communities, in our environment, in every part, that is, of our lives. But this is the challenge that Proverbs sets for us. How can we live such a life? How can we know what God's plan is? And how can we achieve that wisdom needed to live according to that plan? Well, the full revelation of God's wisdom came with Jesus Christ. In his first epistle to the church in Corinth, Paul wrote in chapter 1 and verse 30, "And because of him you are in Christ Jesus, who became to us wisdom from God, righteousness and sanctification and redemption." You see, what this is telling us is that Jesus is our wisdom. There's such a deep ocean of meaning here, but in this ocean we find two pearls. Firstly, Jesus is the wisdom of God in that he is God's plan for this world, and he is also the one who enacts and accomplishes that plan. Through his life, his death, and his resurrection, he sets us free from the foolishness of working against God's purposes, and he gifts us the capacity to live wise lives. And secondly, he is the wisdom of God in that he has lived a life of perfect wisdom. And in this sense, Jesus models wise living for us. He, if you like, is our sat-nav as we navigate our way through the chaos and turbulence of life, guiding us at every turn towards the fulfillment of God's plan for this world. Towards, that is, wisdom. Proverbs tells us that the person who has wisdom is blessed. That was the very first verse that we read. The person who is wise is blessed. That is to say, they are happy, they are flourishing in life. A wise person is someone who is entering more fully into the kind of life that God has gifted to the whole human race. This is why wisdom is to be desired more than anything else. Returning to this marketplace, it's important to note, of course, that we're not actually faced with an either-or decision, wisdom or success, and if success, then not wisdom. That's not how life works, thankfully. We can have wisdom, and other things as well. But of all the attractions that the bazaar of life holds out to us, one is to be desired above everything else: wisdom.